2,000 federal agents hit Minneapolis in major crackdown. I mean, this story is going to go on forever. And the crazy thing is I think you've got a parallel story going on right here in Washington State, specifically King County, just south of Seattle. It's the Seattle metropolitan area. I think you've got this exact same story going on. Let's get into it. Here we go. Unless you've been living under a rock, you haven't seen this story. Tim Walz stepped down. He was going for a third term in state of Minnesota as governor, but had a little bit of an issue with Somali fraud. Not only autism clinics, but you got daycare, you got Medicare, Medicaid. I mean, you've got all kinds of stuff going on. And it got so bad that yesterday he basically said he didn't step down from his position as governor, but he basically said, I can't go for a third term. He basically said, I can't, whatever he said, you know what I mean? I can't focus if I'm, working on this investigation. I can't defend the people of Minnesota. And you're like, well, you didn't defend them first time round. That's why you got 2,000 agents in your community now. I mean, I think this story, this is going to be a good one. I just do. And I think what's going on in King County is just basically much of the same. Trump administration has reportedly begun deploying up to 2,000 Department of Homeland Security personnel to the Minneapolis-St. Paul area for a month-long surge targeting immigration enforcement and alleged large-scale fraud. Now, is HHS, Department of Homeland Security, are they skilled in fraud recognition and fraud enforcement? I don't know, right? I mean, I truly don't know. Because I know they're sending up to 1,500 ICE enforcement agents and removal operation officers and hundreds of Homeland Security investigation agents. So I know ICE just basically covers up your illegal poop, out of the country you go. Handles that. But Homeland Security, they must have a fraud unit, and they are going in to basically take a little peek-see behind the curtain on what's going on in Minnesota and Minneapolis. Supported by tactical teams and senior supervisors, deployment, which began Sunday, is among the largest DHS deployments in a U.S. city in recent years. Homeland Security agents are expected to expand fraud probes tied to federally funded programs, while ICE officers focus on arrests of migrants with deportation orders. Okay, I mean, that kind of goes to answer the question, but I didn't realize Homeland Security agents, they did fraud as well. I guess, Homeland Security, it's here in the U.S. All right. The surge comes amid heightened scrutiny of Minnesota following major pandemic-era fraud cases and growing tension with immigrant communities. Now, we've already got 92 convictions, of which 82 of those convictions were people from Somalia, something like that. I mean, it's a super high percentage are Somali. Now, Governor Walz, he's saying, you guys are breaking into daycares. We've got this hostile YouTube environment where they go up and they knock on doors and ask questions. I mean, it's out of control. It's wildly out of control. I mean, who is allowing these people to walk up on front porches and knock on the door and say, hey, you got a daycare in there? Unlike firebombing and doxing is what the far left does, Antifa does, Black Lives Matter does. They set cities on fire. And yet you're worked up and you're worried about a guy with a microphone and a camera going, hello, is this the 𝗪𝗧𝗛𝗪 Daycare Center? State tax records say that it is, and you guys got $740,000 in the last 2 years. How many children do you have? And in broken English in the background, somebody's like, go away, no daycare here. And you're like, okay, all right. Let's watch a quick video of that. Here we go. So this is just a short clip from Jonathan Cho.
For the past few days, we've uncovered what we believe could be signs of possible Somali daycare fraud. At the very least, we've run into some really sketchy situations.
Well, the windows are covered up with some type of vinyl.
Can we get an application for the home daycare?
I don't have.
You guys don't have a daycare?
They don't like you either.
Who?
Get a life.
Get a life.
Any daycare, no sounds of any kids.
If you have a daycare, where are all the children?
I don't have to tell you what I have, what I don't have.
Even if this was, let's assume for a second, a legitimate daycare business that's only serving 2 children, there is no world where the government should be giving almost $1 million or $750,000 in subsidies to this place.
It's incredibly easy to make fraudulent claims. Just, we're not seeing very much accountability.
And the agency responsible for overseeing and funding these daycares is the Washington State Department of Children, Youth, and Families. And the person running the shop is Secretary 𝗪𝗓𝗠.
But I'm also happy to report that we have more childcare providers today than we did pre-pandemic.
In order to get in touch with her, we need to reach out to the communications department run by Nancy Gutierrez. We have called her numerous times. We have sent her emails with multiple questions about suspicious Somali daycares, some that are listed as licensed but don't exist when we knock on the doors.
6418 is not available. The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
Well, that's convenient. We're trying to get in touch with the DCYF, and the top comms person isn't responding to any of our requests for comment, and her mailbox is full.
If we do find out and we connect all the dots that this was fraudulent, we need to go back a forensic audit of how much money was actually spent, and we need to go retrieve all of it.
Let's assume the best. This is still inefficient. This is still a waste of taxpayer dollars. And the prevailing culture in Olympia doesn't mind that. They just don't see a problem with that.
So that is a couple-minute video. That's an excerpt from about a 17-minute video that I watched last night that was Jonathan Cho and Cam Higbee basically breaking down all the numbers on all of the daycares in Washington State that they banged on the doors. And some of them had kids. And I've said multiple times, not all of these are fraudulent, but enough of them are that I think we should see the feds come into Washington State. Oh my word. That would just be delicious. It would be delicious. Because you know this is going on. You know it's going on. If it's going on in Minneapolis, why wouldn't it? If it worked there and they got a bunch of Democrats running that whole thing, and you got a bunch of Democrats running this whole thing, why wouldn't there be fraud here in Washington State? And because the Somali population is basically South King County. It's Federal Way. It's Des Moines. It's South Seattle. It's Auburn. And those are known locations where the demographic is such where you've got a lot of immigrant population. That's where they have gone. So the fact that they have daycares there, yeah, makes absolute sense. Let's take a look at this one. This is kind of, so we just went from Minneapolis to basically Seattle to King County. Now we're going to go national with NBC. Influencers descend on daycares across the U.S. after Minnesota fraud claims. Clips of people knocking on the doors of daycare centers purportedly run by Somali immigrants are being viewed by millions of times online. I think Nick Shirley's original video, and yeah, here we go. Critics call it harassment. I just call that journalistic reporting. Remember back in the day where reporters literally went and door knocked and got a story? They'd if something happened in a town, they'd go bang on all the store owners' windows. Just, hey, you see anything? Anything going on? You knock on neighbors' doors. Well, people get so freaked out, And now they're saying that they're breaking into daycares and they're taking pictures of children. I mean, they almost go that pedophilia route, don't they? Like, guys, these out of control, rogue, right-wing extremist investigators are taking, video footage of children. And you're like, these are daycares and they're businesses and there doesn't appear to be a lot going on. I haven't seen much in the way of children. So, yeah. Social media frenzy that began in Minnesota over allegations of daycare fraud has rippled into at least 7 other states over the past week as conservative journalists and right-wing influencers have embraced the idea they should investigate state-subsidized child care centers. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the numbers, I'm not saying that there is guilt implied by, somebody not picking up the phone, the head of whatever agency that oversees the daycare. That's not indication of fraud. Somebody saying, there's no daycare here. Okay. All right. Maybe there's a mix up on the state website with the addresses, that thing. Somebody saying there's no daycare here. Maybe it's a language barrier, Okay. All right. But what I am seeing and all the stuff that I have seen online that makes sense to me is that you've got these daycares that have maybe 2 or 3 children in them, and they're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars per year in subsidies. I mean, explain that to me, because a kid is like, so these daycares, they're going to get paid out, what, $1,500, maybe $2,000 in subsidies per child? Per month? You know what I mean? So how do we get these hundreds of thousands of dollars into the millions of dollars for daycare? It doesn't make any sense. I think there's a massive, massive hole there. And I think we're seeing it happen. And I think it brought down Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota. I think it brought him down. I think he's going to get investigated. Yeah. In the days since Christmas, conservative content creators have been showing up at daycare centers from Ohio to Washington State. We just saw Washington State recording videos of themselves trying to interview employees and expressing suspicion over whether the centers are legitimate businesses. That's what they've done. They haven't broken in anywhere. They're not doing anything weird. They're just basically going out, hey, if you're a daycare, we just want to know, is there a daycare here? That's not illegal. Like Minnesota, Ohio, and Washington have also have significant Somali populations. What about all the other daycare? What about just daycares in general? Shouldn't we be looking at those as well? I mean, if the Somali population, which I don't want to be mean, but we had somebody in the comments, I was talking back and forth with an FA. How's that? And he asked, hey, Google the IQ of Somali in your Google machine there. And I did. And I'm like, FA, it was about 68. So we're not talking about incredibly complex individuals here with sophisticated learning. You know what I mean? Obviously, some Somalis are going to have a greater IQ than that, but that is literally on your Google machine. Between 68 and 84 is the average IQ of a Somalian. It's just, that's fact. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not saying, anything derisive. That is just a fact. So if they can work out how to defraud massive government like Minnesota, government like we have here in Washington, why wouldn't the other people who are not from Somalia be able to work that out as well and just take advantage of that? Are we on the tip of an iceberg of fraud? I think we are. NBC News viewed similar videos on social media investigating daycare centers in Idaho, Maine, Massachusetts, Oregon, and Pennsylvania. Many of the people making the videos are affiliated with small conservative websites or have ties to political groups. Isn't it interesting that it's the small conservative content creators that are driving so much of what we're understanding to be going on in our daily culture? It's weird, isn't it? Not mainstream media. They pick up the pieces. Hey, Nick Shirley's got 190 million views on X for his video he released a day after Christmas. You know what I mean? It's like, and he's 23 years old. Hey, you got a daycare in there? Fantastic work from him and his cohort, by the way. I mean, it's investigative reporting. You know what I mean? You bang on some doors, you see what happens, you look at your data, you analyze your data, you report your data back out, and there you go. The clips have been posted to X, where some have racked up millions of views. Help from the network of prominent right-wing influencers in the platform who share and reuse the content. Well, it's called news. It's not specific to right-wing, it's news. And mainstream media doesn't put that out because they're not getting it. They're not digging up the stories. They don't want to know. Oh, good Lord, that's not, because, bottom line is here, you're basically buying voters. You are buying voters by kicking out all this money to them, knowing full well that, which party is in leadership, which party is making this possible. You're not seeing this in Oklahoma. Just saying, right? Maybe you are. Maybe we should investigate Oklahoma City. I can't see there being a massive Somali population there. Videos have sparked a national debate about the tactics of right-wing media figures, with some Republicans praising, and while some Democrats, immigrant advocates, warn the confrontational tactics amount to harassment. Well, what about throwing a Molotov cocktail into a business a la Black Lives Matter? What about that? Didn't seem to really bother you then, did it? Was that advanced harassment? Asking for a friend. In particular, many people of Somali descent who have not been charged with any crime are caught in the middle. Well, that's going to happen. You got an investigation? That's going to happen. And if you are a legit business, you got nothing to worry about, because the people sending their kids to your daycare, they know you're legit. You got a license. There's nothing weird. You're not getting millions of dollars from the government, hundreds of thousands of dollars from the government. You got nothing to be afraid of. Nothing to be afraid of. Article goes on to say that, hey, this isn't new. This has been going on. These investigations have been going on since 2022. So mainstream media has had forever to report on this, forever to dig this up. And yet it's a bunch of just, I don't want to say renegade, but guys who go out and just kick up the story. Jonathan Cho, Cam Higby. There are local folks here, some of them. And, people are upset. Hey, you're getting too much. You're getting too close to the real story there, guys. President Donald Trump has used those charges as justification for disparaging remarks attacking Somali people as a community. Well, he basically said, if you're stealing from the government, we're going to toss you out. All right, that's kind of the way it goes. Turning Point USA spokesperson Andrew Colvette said that the allegations of fraud at Minnesota daycare centers is so big, it's so important, because it's going to unlock a bunch of other storylines that we're going to see play out in 2026. And that's why I'm saying Seattle is next. That is my prediction, because everything lines up. It makes sense. Are you going to be able to hide this kind of fraud? I mean, how are you going to do that? Let's see, you got 3 kids in there, and you got $150,000 in the last year, in the last 3 months from the government. 3 divided by, you can do the math, right? I mean, it's and oftentimes it's so much greater than that. It's just absolutely mind-blowing. And then we've got U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is freezing all federal child care payments to Minnesota, basically because of Nick Shirley's video. And then this national article goes on to talk about the video we just saw and an extrapolation of that. it's absolutely crazy that this is going on. And then we've got here in state of Washington, potential child care center fraud in Washington state investigated. And yet our governor is saying, no, this is amounting to harassment. We stand with our Somali community. And you're just kind of left with, why? Oh, you're just protecting them for no reason. Let's get into it. Let's look at it. It's one thing to say, hey, we stand with them, but it's another thing to say, you know what? I think they're based on what we're seeing in Minneapolis and in Minnesota, based on what we're seeing there. And kind of, we've got some of the same patterns going on here in the state of Washington. Let's take a deep dive, get ahead of it. Let's get ahead. We've got nothing to hide. And so if there is some fraud out there, let's investigate it. But that's not what's going on here in the state of Washington, because the feds are coming, and the feds are orange man bad. And so, local government is like, it's invasive. They're harassing us. They're asking us questions about where the millions of taxpayers' dollars went. How about this one? Homeland Security, Kristi Noem spotted in St. Paul amid surge in immigration enforcement. She goes out there for the photo op, doesn't she? And hey, you know what? She's boots on the ground. She's been to every single one of these places where forces have been just surged, right? I mean, the first one, where was the first big one? LA. It was LA. Just had we're going to go clean LA up. And then DC, we're going to clean DC up. Now we've got, in St. Paul, she's going there. And, you might say, yeah, she's there just for the photo op. At least she's there. Because remember when Kamala Harris was like, I haven't been to the border. Border? Good Lord. I mean, there's illegal things going on there. I'm not going to the border. And then I haven't been to Europe either. And you're left with, okay, but you're the border czar. You're Joe Biden's border czar, and you're not doing anything. So 2,000 agents being surged into Tim Walz, Tampon Tim's country. And man, they're going to rile things up there. And fingers crossed, I hope to see him in Seattle in the near future. I do. I really do. I mean, because what's the worst that could happen? There's nothing here. There's nothing here. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Yeah. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to kick up a bunch of people that shouldn't be here. So you're going to get some illegals deported. Is that such a terrible thing? No, it's not. And on top of that, they're going to find a bunch of fraud. Because if it smells like fraud, if it looks like fraud, if it talks like fraud, what is it? Yeah. Thanks so much for being here. I'd love to have you subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.